In 2001, Tyco International was one of the largest conglomerates in America. Revenue of $36 billion. Operations in over 100 countries. A stock that had risen 700% in a decade. Its CEO, Dennis Kozlowski, was called the next Jack Welch. Fortune put him on the cover. Analysts praised his acquisition strategy. Directors praised his leadership. They did not know he was stealing $600 million from the company while they watched. This is the story of Tyco. Dennis Kozlowski grew up in Newark, New Jersey, a working-class neighborhood where money was earned, not inherited. He attended Seton Hall University, then moved through a series of corporate jobs before joining Tyco International in 1975 as an assistant comptroller. Over the next 2 decades, he climbed steadily. In 1992, he became CEO. Tyco was a diversified conglomerate: fire safety systems, electronics, healthcare products, plastics. Under Kozlowski, the company became an acquisition machine. Between 1997 and 2001, Tyco completed over 700 acquisitions. The strategy was straightforward: buy companies, cut costs, integrate operations, report higher earnings. Wall Street loved it. The stock went from $7 per share in 1992 to over $60 by 2001. Kozlowski's compensation was enormous, but by the standards of the era, not unusual. His base salary, bonuses, and stock options totaled over $100 million per year. But Kozlowski wanted more, and he discovered that Tyco's internal controls were so weak that he could simply take it. The looting was not subtle. Kozlowski and his CFO, Mark Swartz, approved unauthorized bonuses for themselves and other executives totaling over $150 million. They took relocation loans of $81 million that were never intended to be repaid and then forgave them using company funds. They manipulated Tyco's employee loan program to extract tens of millions in additional cash. Kozlowski's personal spending with company money became legendary. A $6,000 shower curtain for his Manhattan apartment, paid for by Tyco. A $15,000 umbrella stand. A $17,000 traveling toilette box. Art by Renoir, Monet, and Bouguereau. Over $14 million worth, purchased with corporate funds and hung in Kozlowski's private residence. Then came the birthday party. In June 2001, Kozlowski flew over 50 guests to Sardinia for his wife Karen's 40th birthday celebration. The venue was a private resort. The entertainment included Jimmy Buffett, who was paid $250,000 to perform. An ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David dispensed vodka. Models dressed as Roman goddesses served the guests. The total cost was $2.1 million. Kozlowski charged half to Tyco, classifying it as a company event because several Tyco employees attended. The party was videotaped. The tape would later become the most damaging piece of evidence in the criminal trial, a visual monument to corporate excess at the expense of shareholders. Mark Belnick, Tyco's general counsel, also participated in the scheme. He received $14 million in unauthorized loans and bonuses. The circle of beneficiaries was small but voracious. The money flowed from Tyco's treasury into the personal accounts of its most senior executives with no board approval, no disclosure, and no oversight. The board of directors was either unaware or willfully blind. Tyco's lead director, Frank Walsh, had personally received $20 million in finder's fees for facilitating Tyco's acquisition of CIT Group, a fee he arranged for himself without informing the full board. The governance structure was a shell. The people responsible for oversight were profiting from the absence of it. The unraveling began in January 2002, when the Manhattan District Attorney's Office opened an investigation into sales tax evasion on Kozlowski's art purchases. The investigation was narrow. Kozlowski had avoided paying $1 million in New York sales tax by shipping paintings to New Hampshire before redirecting them to his Manhattan apartment. But the tax investigation led prosecutors to Tyco's internal records. What they found was far larger than tax fraud. The unauthorized bonuses, the forgiven loans, the personal expenditures classified as business expenses, the $2.1 million Sardinia party. The scale of the looting was staggering. Kozlowski resigned as CEO in June 2002, hours before he was indicted on charges of enterprise corruption and grand larceny. Swartz resigned the same day. The board, stunned by the scope of the theft, hired the law firm Boies Schiller to conduct an internal investigation. The investigation confirmed that Kozlowski and Swartz had taken over $400 million without authorization, with total losses to the company exceeding $600 million. The first trial began in October 2003 and lasted 6 months. A mistrial was declared after a juror received a threatening letter. The second trial began in January 2005. This time, the prosecution presented the Sardinia party video, the shower curtain receipts, and detailed records of the unauthorized transfers. On June 17, 2005, the jury convicted Kozlowski and Swartz on 22 of 23 counts, including grand larceny, conspiracy, securities fraud, and falsifying business records. Kozlowski was sentenced to 8 1/3 to 25 years in state prison. Swartz received the same sentence. Both were ordered to pay $134 million in restitution to Tyco. Kozlowski served 6.5 years at the Mid-State Correctional Facility in Marcy, New York. He was granted parole in January 2014. Swartz was released shortly after. Neither expressed significant public remorse. Tyco survived. The company paid over $3 billion in legal settlements to shareholders. It restructured, splitting into 3 separate companies: Tyco International, Covidien, and TE Connectivity. Each entity proved more valuable independently than the conglomerate had been under Kozlowski's leadership. The Tyco scandal was not a story of accounting fiction or market manipulation. It was theft, direct, personal, and unapologetic. Kozlowski did not fabricate revenue or inflate assets. He took money from the company and spent it on himself. The shower curtain, the paintings, the party, the loans that were never loans. What made it possible was not complexity, but complicity. A board that did not monitor, a compensation committee that did not review, an internal audit function that did not question. The systems that should have prevented a CEO from looting his own company were either absent or captured by the people they were designed to constrain. Dennis Kozlowski arrived at Tyco with nothing and left with everything he could carry. The shareholders, employees, and pensioners who trusted the company's governance were left to absorb the cost. The $6,000 shower curtain became a symbol not because it was the worst expenditure, but because it captured the contempt, the absolute certainty that accountability would never arrive. It arrived, but $600 million later.